Hey everyone, who do you think topped the charts with the highest ratings of the last decade? EA? Rockstar? Ubisoft? Well, the answer might surprise you. While the giants were spending billions on marketing, small studios were busy creating masterpieces that blew critics away. Today, we're counting down the top 10 highest-rated indie games on Metacritic from the last 10 years. Get your Steam wishlist ready because this list is stacked. Let's dive in. Disco Elysium. We're starting with the game that completely redefined what an RPG can be. Disco Elysium, released in 2019 by the small studio ZAUM, scored a ridiculous 97 on Metacritic for PC. That's not a typo, 97. The premise sounds simple. You're a detective trying to solve a murder in a decaying city called Revachol. But here's the twist. You wake up with no memory, no identity, not even your own name. The game literally asks you to build who this person is through your choices, your beliefs, and even your failures. Your internal skills argue with each other. Empathy tells you to help the homeless man. Logic says crime doesn't pay. And electrochemistry? Well, it just wants to know when the next drink is coming. It's a game about politics, identity, failure, nostalgia, and the absurdity of existence, written in a way that's both hilarious and devastating. Critics loved it because they had never seen anything like it, and players who experienced it never forgot it. If you haven't played Disco Elysium yet, pause this video, go play it, then come back. But if you're staying, the next game on this list is something I genuinely don't know how to describe without spoiling it.
In the basement of that cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her.
Slay the Princess. Slay the Princess starts exactly like this. A voice tells you there's a princess locked in a basement and you have to kill her, or the world ends. Simple, right? Yeah, not even close. Released in 2023 by Black Tabby Games, a two-person team, Slay the Princess landed above 90 on Metacritic across multiple platforms. It's a visual novel where choices actually matter. Every decision you make changes the princess. She evolves, she adapts to you, and the game never goes where you expect. Sometimes it's terrifying, sometimes it's beautiful, and sometimes you realize you were completely wrong from the start. What impressed critics was the emotional depth wrapped in such a minimal presentation. Black and white art, a haunting soundtrack, and writing that feels like a mix of mythology, philosophy, and psychological horror. It's the kind of game you finish in a weekend and think about for weeks. But the next entry is the complete opposite. A project so ambitious, it challenges what an indie game even is. UFO 50. Imagine finding a dusty old console from the 80s at a thrift store. You take it home, plug it in, and discover it has 50 games inside. 50! Each one different, each one complete, each one surprisingly good. That's UFO 50. Released in 2024 by Mossmouth, the creators of Spelunky, this game spent 7 years in development. It's designed as if these games were made between 1982 and 1989 by a fictional company called UFO Soft. And critics didn't just praise the insane amount of content, but the consistency of quality. Platformers, RPGs, roguelikes, sports games, and none of them feel shallow. Each one has real depth. It's basically a love letter to retro game design, recreated with incredible attention to detail. UFO 50 proves that creativity doesn't need a massive budget. But if you think that's wild, wait until you see what comes next.
Presents a world of possibilities.
Blueprints. Some games make you feel smart. Others make you question if you're smart enough to finish them. Blueprints is the second type. Released in 2025 by Dogubomb, this puzzle exploration game quickly became one of the most talked about titles of the year.
You inherit a mansion with 46 rooms, but every time you start a new run, the layout changes. The house is alive, and your goal is to uncover what's hidden in room 46. There's no tutorial, no map, no guidance, just you and the mystery. What critics loved was the layered design. Every detail matters. Every run teaches you something new. It's not a game you rush, it's a game you sit with, and it slowly reveals itself. But the next game is about something much more personal, climbing a mountain and what it takes to reach the top.
Should my grandnephew fail?
Celeste. And there's a moment in Celeste that hits harder than most therapy sessions ever could, and it happens in a pixel art platformer about climbing a mountain. Released in 2018, Celeste scored in the 90s across multiple platforms on Metacritic. Mechanically, it's tight, precise, and brutally difficult. You'll die hundreds, maybe thousands of times, but it never feels unfair. Every failure is yours, every success too. But what elevates Celeste is its story. Madeline climbs the mountain not because she has to, but because she feels like she needs to. And along the way, she confronts a darker version of herself, a voice that tells her she's going to fail. It's a raw, honest look at anxiety and self-doubt. No exaggeration, no easy answers, just respect. Celeste is one of those rare games that's both mechanically challenging and emotionally powerful. But if Celeste is about climbing, the next game is about going down, way down.
For everyone. No. She chose to come.
Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is likely one you already know, because Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was one of those rare phenomena that actually broke the bubble.
Expedition 33. For best role, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Game of the year. Clair.
You know that game that suddenly shows up on everyone's feed, even for people who never cared about the genre? That was it. People who used to avoid turn-based RPGs like the plague gave it a shot, and came out completely converted. To this day, it's still racking up awards and showing up on every Game of the Year list. That's the kind of impact we rarely see. Released in 2025 by Sandfall Interactive, a French studio made of industry veterans who decided to bet everything on their own vision, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 hit Metacritic with scores that immediately placed it among the best RPGs of recent years, and undoubtedly among the best indie games of the decade. The premise is devastating right from the start. In a world inspired by the French Belle Epoque, an entity called the Paintress wakes up every year and paints a number. Everyone that age instantly dies. The game begins as that number gets dangerously close to our protagonists. Expedition 33 is the name of the final mission, the last-ditch effort to stop the Paintress before it's too late. What critics couldn't stop praising was the hybrid system. The combat blends turn-based RPG mechanics with real-time action elements. You have to time your button presses to dodge, parry, and amplify damage. It creates this constant tension where every battle feels like a performance. That's exactly what won over the skeptics. Suddenly, turns have urgency, rhythm, and that feeling that you need to be present every second. But what truly elevates Expedition 33 is the narrative and the art direction. The world is beautiful in a way that looks hand-painted. The characters have depth, the losses actually matter, and the soundtrack, composed with cinematic seriousness, stays with you long after the credits roll. It's a game that proves team size doesn't dictate the greatness of a vision, and that a good enough idea can reach everyone, regardless of the genre. Some games you play, others happen to you. Inside, released in 2016 by Playdead, is the second kind. No dialogue, no text, no explanation. You're a boy running through a dark forest. Something is chasing you, and the game never tells you what or why. It scored a 93 on Metacritic and became a masterclass in environmental storytelling. In under 3 hours, it builds an entire dystopian world using only visuals and sound.
And then there's the ending. No spoilers, but it's one of the most discussed endings in gaming history. Inside shows how powerful silence can be.
Nobody gets out of here.
Hades. In Hades, dying doesn't feel like failure. It feels like going home. Released fully in 2020, Hades scored a 93 on Metacritic and became one of the most beloved roguelikes ever made. You play as Zagreus, trying to escape the underworld. You fight, you die, you try again. But every death moves the story forward. Characters remember, relationships evolve. Death isn't a reset, it's a progression. The combat is fast, fluid, and endlessly customizable. And the characters? Charismatic, sharp, unforgettable. Hades redefined the genre, but somehow the next game went even further.
Well, daughter of Hades.
When Supergiant Games announced Hades 2 in 2022, the internet's reaction was immediate. How do you make a sequel to a perfect game? What do you add? What do you change? The answer arrived in 2024 via early access, and it left roguelike fans floored. Hades 2 hit Metacritic with a 95 score. For a game still in early access, that number isn't just impressive, it is historically rare. This time, you play as Melinoe, Hades' daughter and Zagreus' sister, with power centered on the moon and witchcraft. The underworld is different, the enemies are different. The mythology has been expanded to include lesser-known figures of the Greek pantheon, giving the game its own distinct identity rather than letting it linger in the shadow of the original. What critics highlighted was the staggering amount of content already present at the early access launch. More rooms, more biomes, more weapons, more gods, more stories, all paired with the same level of polish that made the first game famous. Supergiant didn't release a rough draft. They launched a solid foundation that already surpasses most finished games on the market. Hades 2 isn't just a sequel, it's a statement. It's Supergiant saying, we know what we're doing, and we're not going to stop improving. And with a 95 on Metacritic, it's hard to disagree.
Death to Kronos.
Death to Kronos. ようやくお目覚めになったのですね。あなた様はこの館の主でございます。
And finally, number 10. This one is hard to explain. The House in Fata Morgana is a visual novel that reached scores as high as 96 on Metacritic. You wake up in a mansion with no memory. A mysterious woman tells you the house holds stories. Each door reveals a different tragedy, a different era, a different life. And as the story unfolds, it becomes something much bigger. It tackles love, trauma, identity, guilt, and redemption with incredible depth. No combat, no gameplay systems, just story, music, and impact. It's proof that sometimes all a game needs is a story that truly matters. And that's the list. 10 games, 10 different visions. None of them had massive budgets. None of them had huge teams. And yet, they dominate the highest Metacritic scores of the decade. What does that say about indie games? It says creativity still matters. It says passion still matters. And maybe most importantly, there is no formula. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these games have you played? Which one are you adding to your wish list right now? And is there an indie you think deserved a spot here? Drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, it really helps the channel. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.